One of my goals with Galactic Chef was to get feedback early and often, but it's possible to take that too far, so I ran a poll and decided that I'd focus on a few major updates between now and the finished game, rather than trying to do an incremental prototype build every week or so. So with that in mind, I've put together a tentative roadmap, and it looks like I have about 3 months of work left, which is longer than I meant to spend on the entire game originally, but I've made my peace with the fact that all of my ideas tend to grow with time. I'll always think of ways to make them better, more interesting. As I've said before, I'd much rather spend that extra time to make a game I'm proud of than rush something out and have unexplored potential. But in this video, I'm mostly going to focus on what's new in the latest build that should be releasing today, which is the first build I'm calling a pre-alpha rather than a prototype. Starting from the main menu, you can now load saved games, and this will scroll if you have too many. You can also delete games directly from the list. When we get into a new game, you'll see a few new things on the pause menu, including the ability to save, load, and a new screenshot button, which will optionally append a banner to the bottom so that other people can play with the same challenges and ingredients that you have. Once we get into the kitchen, you'll see that things have been rearranged a bit, and we have a few new items as well. The particulators are now fixed in place because they had some sort of janky, buggy behavior before. This just simplifies things a lot. They can't be moved, but you can get extra bowls from the rack. I've also added a scale, and the bite-size challenge now has a weight to aim for so that you're not just guessing on what an appropriate size is. The new ingredients also have some new features, such as this one is dirty initially. It needs to be washed in the sink. This happens on a per pixel basis, so you need to make sure that you run water over every pixel of the food, and it still takes a few seconds per pixel to make sure that it gets all the way clean. You may notice this is also changing the texture as water naturally would. Moving on, this ingredient is actually toxic, and there are just 4 pixels that you need to remove to make it safe to eat, which I'm going to do with the new magnified laser board view. Here you can freely cut and drill however you want. I've removed the toxins now, and you can also rotate food in 3 dimensions to get a better look at it. You can cut or drill whatever shapes you want. The sparks here will let me know when I've cut all the way through that particular pixel. Now I can pull these apart. And also for cases where you end up with a lot of little bits of food, I've added the ability to select multiple objects at once. You can move them around together or press delete to send them all to the trash. The grav hammer has also finally been implemented to actually flatten and splatter food. There's a bit of a limitation with the way the simulation works that constrains the particles to a cubic region, so you'll see sort of square edges on things. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that, or I might just leave it, but that's kind of the point of having testable prototypes. I want to get your feedback on that. The main purpose of this is to make things thinner so that they can cook through more easily, but it's also just kind of fun to mess around with. And that was one of the new time warnings that I've added, so you don't get to the end and suddenly realize that you're out of time. It'll do a countdown at the last 10 seconds as well. The other new ingredient I wanted to show you isn't showing up in this particular run, so I'm just going to start a new one. This is an exotic ingredient, which basically means that all of the effects of all of the reactions have been randomized. So if I pull this up in the notebook, let's see. There's some dramatic color, flavor, and texture changes as you heat it, and it looks like water isn't doing much of anything, but that's just random chance. I've also added some sound effects to picking up and dropping objects. And I've also made a lot of tweaks to the scoring, reactions, and pretty much every aspect of the game, but nothing big enough to call out individually. Other than perhaps the NPCs are now a lot more capable than they used to be. They can actually work with liquids and do everything you can aside from using the grav hammer and the freeform cutting on the laser board. And that's all for today, but if you have any questions about how any of this is implemented, please leave them in the comments and I'll try to get to them in my next Technical Tuesday video. In the meantime, it always helps me out if you hit the like button, spread the word, and subscribe if you haven't already. And of course, thanks for watching.